morning. Today, we light this chalice because we are Unitarian Universalists. We are the fellowship of the open mind, the loving heart, and the helping hands. Together, we bring peace and justice to our earth.
Thank you to Chris Johnson for lighting our chalice this morning. Chris is a science teacher, and I want to thank all of the teachers out there in our community and beyond who are teaching our children remotely for the first time. You are making a big difference. Welcome to everyone on this Sunday as we meditate on the milestone of having reached the 50th anniversary of the first Earth Day. Our invocation words come from Barbara Peskin. For the beauty of the earth, this spinning blue-green ball, yes. Gaia, mother of everything, we walk gently across your back to come together in this place again, to remember how we can live, to remember who we are, to create how we will be. Gaia, our home in which we live, welcome us.
A long, long time ago, and yet not so long ago at all, back when on the earth, the rivers and the trees, the rocks and the plants and the animals could all speak and understand one another, an argument began. It began quiet as a whisper with the breeze. God is never still, moving always like the wind. And the stone replied, no, she is still as rock. The mountain thundered, no, God is higher than the highest snow-capped mountains. God is a swimmer in the deep blue oceans, replied the fish. She is far past the furthest sparkling star, said one of the stars. No, you're wrong. He is very close, like a sound and a smell here next to us, said the ant. They are a great tree, said the willow, part of the earth, always growing and always giving. You're wrong, said the island. God is apart and distant. She is like the shining sun, far, far above all of us, said the blue sky. No, he is like a river flowing through the core of everything, thundered the waterfall. They are a powerful hunter, said the lion. He is gentle, said the robin. She is powerful, said the bear. And then a sound came. A voice rumbled like thunder and whispered like butterfly kisses. It was the old turtle. Now, old turtle didn't say very much, and certainly never argued, not about God and who God was or was not. And so when she spoke, the animals listened. God is deep, she said to the fish. And God is high, she said to the mountains. God is as free as the wind and as still as the rocks, she said to the breeze and the stone. God is growing and living and is close and yet far apart. God is gentle and powerful, above all and within all. God is all we dream about, everything we seek, everything we come from, and all that we can find. God is. Well, the animals listened carefully because old turtle never spoke very much, and she had one more thing to say. There is a new family of beings coming, called people. They're sent to remind us of all that God is. They will come in all sorts of colors and shapes, have all sorts of faces, and speak different languages. They'll be powerful and tender. They are love from God sent to the earth, and a prayer from earth sent up to God. And the people came. They came in all those shapes and sizes and colors and languages. But they forgot who they were. They forgot that they were love sent down from God. They forgot that they were a prayer from the earth. They began to argue about who knew God and who didn't, about where was God and where wasn't, and what was God and what God was not. They began to misuse their powers. They hurt one another, even killed one another. They hurt the earth, and eventually the earth began to die. The forests, the rivers, the plants and the animals and the earth itself, all because the people had forgotten who they were and where God was. One day, a voice came rumbling like thunder and quiet like butterfly sneezes. And they said, "Please stop." It thundered from the mountains. I sometimes see God swimming in the deep blue oceans. And the fish replied, I often see God on the snow-capped mountains up high. The stone replied, I feel God move as the breath touches me and the breeze. I feel the stillness as I dance among the stones. The star chimed in, she is very, very close. The island replied, their love touches everything. After a long, lonesome, and scary time, the people began to listen and were able to hear. They were able to hear and to see God within one another, in each other's faces, and within the beauty of the earth. An old turtle smiled, and so did God.
Earth's endless treasures, gifts beyond measure, beauty beyond all imagining. Earth's endless treasures, source of all pleasure, gratefully now our thanks we bring. Mighty snow-capped mountains, endless rolling seas, brightly colored fields of flowers waving in the breeze, pink and orange sunsets, stands of towering trees, drifting clouds in sun-drenched skies, crystal flowing streams. Earth's endless treasures, gifts beyond measure, beauty beyond all imagining. Earth's endless treasures, source of such pleasure, gratefully now our thanks we bring. Jungles green and fertile, fields of ripening grain, red and gold, framing country lanes, misty arching rainbows, silent falling snow, endless creatures great and small, each to live and grow. Earth's endless treasures, gifts beyond measure, beauty beyond all imagining. Earth's endless treasure, source of all pleasure, gratefully now our thanks we bring.
I want to invite you into a time of prayerful thanksgiving as we honor our lost loved ones. Our first memorial candle is for Werner Simon, a beloved in our community who passed away on April 13th. Werner was a member of our fellowship for 35 years. He is survived by two of his children, Nava and Jeffrey Simon, and a grandson, Daniel. Werner was an editor with a keen eye for detail. Werner was a spitfire, a social justice advocate, and an advocate for our earth. He was part of many political discussions, the veggie dinner group, and a men's group at the fellowship. He will be remembered for his passion for truth-telling, his sense of humor, his caring and principled ways, and his lasting friendships. Werner, may your light shine brightly in all of our hearts, lighting up the path of a radical love that excludes no one. Three members of our fellowship also lost immediate family members in the last week. We are holding Arthur Schwartz and his wife, Teresa, in our hearts. Arthur lost his older sister, Paula Michaels, on April 11th. Paula was 83 years old. We also hold her children, David, Jody, and Eric, her 6 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild in this season of grief. Paula was loving and filled with the spirit of hospitality. Arthur has many fond memories of family gatherings in her home. Paula will be remembered for her inner and outer beauty and an ability to create beauty through crafts and sundry creations. May Paula's light, beauty, and love continue to radiate through her brother, her children, and her grandchildren, and all those who are closest to her. We are holding Tristan Cockcroft as well as his wife Marlena and his children Aaron and Viola in our hearts. Tristan lost his father, John Cockcroft Jr., on April 12th. We also hold Tristan's younger brother, also named John, in our prayers. John Jr., or Van, as he was known by many, was bright and worked professionally as a lawyer, banker, and tax preparer. He battled with pancreatic cancer in 2017 and won, but sadly it returned in September. Van will be remembered as someone with a passion for movies, collecting movies, and discussing them. May Van's light and love, the stories of his life, and the lessons they hold burn brightly in the hearts of his children, grandchildren, and all who miss him now. We are holding Beth Wilson and Joe Erhane in our hearts. Beth lost her sister, Jennifer Wilson, on April 12th. Jennifer died at 73 years old. At the age of 20, Jennifer had an aneurysm which left her a quadriplegic and unable to talk. Jennifer communicated to people using a talk card, which was a piece of cardboard with the letters of the alphabet duplicated on both sides. She had a strength of spirit and was very creative. Jennifer became a published poet. Her parents, Harry and Betty, cared for her at home for as long as they could. 30 years ago, she moved into long-term care facilities. May Jennifer's light and her love, her equanimity, her humor, and her resilience radiate and ripple out through the hearts of her family, close friends, and caregivers. We now share in Jennifer Wilson's words a poem about her life. Why is it right for everyone to know all my personal stuff, the happiness, the woe? My body has been for an eternity not my own. Is this the fate of mind, each private thought known? Why is it right to talk and speculate, my thoughts and moves, what I calculate? Is it because my last name is patient? It's open season on those thought not sentient? Let me ask a polite question to your face. I'm nosy, I'm out of line, I'm from outer space. But it's okay to think you know all my private stuff, my joy, despair, happiness, and when things get rough. But surprise, surprise, you don't really know. My mind is still free. It's all been a show.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Jim Stevenson. 50 years ago this spring, I was a graduate student at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, where I was struggling to finish up my PhD thesis, which I would defend shortly. Wisconsin Senator Gaylord Nelson was one of the sponsors of Earth Day and encouraged all of us to participate. I can recall writing a newspaper article and also hosting a table where we were handing out literature on Earth Day. I can also recall thinking I should be working on my thesis instead of doing all this environmental stuff. The issues of the day were air, and well, especially air pollution in places like Pittsburgh, and also water pollution. Like today, there was an overriding issue, and that was the Vietnam War. And shortly after that first Earth Day, the Kent State shootings occurred, and the resulting huge protest really washed out, I think, any recollection of Earth Day. Today, we have another immediate issue, and that is the coronavirus. But like then, and all the intermediate issues that occurred since the last 50 years, we've made enormous progress on the environment. So what we hope is in 100 years from now, we will be viewed, as well as the next generation, as having overcome this environmental crisis. Thank you.
the tiny buds poking through the tree branches, the feel of soft green moss on a gray stone, the earthworm wriggling in the water on the path beneath our feet, the robin's song and the woodpecker's beat, the warmth of the sun on my cheek. These are among the sights, sounds, and experiences which give me new life on my almost daily walks this spring. In this time where I cannot visit with my sibling or my cousins, my fellow class parents or my congregants, out in the woods is where I can be close to other living beings. The birds, the flowers, the frogs, the trees, the red fox, the deer, the bugs. They are closer to me than my brother in this strange season. During this pandemic, they have been my lifeline. I have heard from many of you similar stories. It has me wondering, though, what are we to them? We who so often do them injury. We who too often take our siblings in the family of wild things for granted. I can't help but imagine 50 years from now, if there were a raging pandemic when my son is in his 50s, will he be able to be in the company of wild things to whom he feels related? What will the earth look like 50 years from now on the 100th anniversary of Earth Day? I've read different things about our future. A place unrecognizable and potentially uninhabitable by our notions today, or perhaps a place where we are no longer part of the interconnected web, where pollinator drones have replaced bees, or maybe a place of ingenuity and old ways that are deeply relational, where every action is considered in relation to its impact on the environment and the most vulnerable in society. It will ultimately take billions of individual actions and millions of communal and collective actions of our towns, cities, states, and nations. The actions of small businesses and giant corporations to avoid the worst impacts of hitting the melting iceberg that is global warming and climate chaos. Right now, I worry that we may be lulled into thinking that inaction will somehow solve the crisis. Maybe we should just stay home permanently. After all, the skies look clear and beautiful with so few cars on the road or planes in the sky. The flight I was supposed to take to the board meeting for Star King School for the Ministry in Berkeley, California this week alone will save 1 ton of carbon dioxide consumption for just my seat on that trip, and will avoid the consequences of melting 3 square meters of summer sea ice. That would be 6 square meters of ice melted for the 2 legs of that journey. Yes, we do need to think about consuming less stuff, including less gasoline. However, the world that we dream about on Earth Day is not a world where so much of commerce grinds to a halt, where disadvantaged children fall further behind in school, and elders stay home for fear of losing their lives. No, Earth Day 2020 is a time for turning away from inaction. Sadly, that is exactly what got us to this point of over 400 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, well past the benchmark of sustainability at 350 parts per million. We must take steps to restore right relations with all that lives, or risk the bleakness of endless summer, endless storms, endless extinctions. There are things we are learning through this pandemic that will serve us in our struggle for sustainability. While travel will and needs to resume when it is safe, we can ask ourselves whether a flight that lasts longer than a short in-person business meeting is really worth the risk in terms of life on Earth. We may discover through this time that Zoom or WebEx or Office Teams or the latest conference platform will do, and will do well. We have proven that business as usual isn't the only or even the best option under all circumstances. The pandemic has also shown us the perils of not heeding the scientists and the mathematicians soon enough. We have been able to witness in a matter of weeks what happens when we ignore what the latest models predict, especially when the people ignoring those facts have the power of the lives and livelihoods of others in their hands. It matters a great deal that our president chose to ignore the wisdom of epidemiologists and encouraged social gathering at just the time that social distancing was in order. Loudness is not leadership, and ignorance can never mask as intelligence. Temporary clear skies and reduced carbon consumption will also not make up for the rapid rate at which the administration is dismantling the environmental protections that so many have worked tirelessly to achieve. We must protect policies and enact further policies and laws that protect the most vulnerable, those who are at the margins and on the edges of survival, whether of human, animal, or plant life. Leading up to the election in November, we must center these concerns and ask our neighbors to do the same. We must put an end to the Greek tragedy in which we find ourselves, where we destroy our parent who gave us life to prove our freedom and power over them, only to learn that we have need of them in the end and after all, only to learn that what has been killed cannot be revived. We cannot destroy them without destroying our humanity and our happiness in the process. We are relational beings, and through an awareness of how our relating impacts others for the better or for the worse is how we exercise moral power. In a pandemic, when we pare down to the bare essentials, we see which activities we truly believe to be essential. According to what remains open, hospitals and doctors, grocery stores and food banks, Home Depot and construction, healthcare, food and housing. These are the basics that every living thing requires to nourish and sustain life. It makes you wonder why affordable and accessible shelter, health care, and food is not a human right, when clearly deep down we know that it should be. Ultimately, good health, good food, and adequate shelter are connected to the state of our earth. For us to cut ourselves off from that truth is to cut our children and our grandchildren off from the potential for life itself. Ultimately, cutting others off from these necessities by allowing inhumane policies to be enacted is to wall ourselves off from our humanity and the source of our happiness. For a time, our separation may fuel the illusion of safety and security, but remember, it is just that, only an illusion. The 50th anniversary of Earth Day is a time for celebration, for all that has been accomplished. Just look at how much of our ozone layer has been restored. The 50th anniversary is also a time of mourning and further awakening before it is too late. We must reduce the amount of carbon in the atmosphere. which we have seen that we can do when we take seriously the toll on life. This pandemic has shown us we can do it. So now, let us take actions and invest in a green economy and a new deal for Mother Earth, so that 50 years from now, we can still walk in beauty with our children and the children of our children. Amen, and blessed be, and may it be so.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
We close our service today with a meditation by Sister Jewel, Facing Climate Change with Heart.
Breathing in, I open to my feelings in response to the climate crisis.
Breathing out, I allow these feelings to be here, whatever they are.
In,
Open to my feelings.
Out,
Allow my feelings.
breathing in, I tenderly hold the suffering in me in response to the climate crisis.
breathing out, I tenderly hold the collective suffering, including that of the earth.
In,
Holding suffering in me.
Out,
Holding suffering of others.
breathing in, I am aware of the many animal and plant species now threatened with extinction.
breathing out, I am aware of the growing threat to human health and safety.
In,
Species threatened with extinction.
Out,
Humans also threatened.
Breathing in, I look deeply to see how I have contributed to our global crisis.
Breathing out, I see the individual and collective ignorance at the root of destruction.
In,
My contribution to the crisis.
Out,
Ignorance at its root.
breathing in, I allow myself to feel sorrow and regret for my own harm and the collective harm.
breathing out, I ask the great Mother Earth and the Buddha in me for forgiveness and understanding.
In,
Embracing my regret.
Out,
Forgiveness and understanding.
breathing in, I know I'm also part of the solution and I can contribute to sustainability and social justice.
breathing out, I see the individual and collective awakening happening all over the world.
In,
I can contribute to healing.
Out,
Collective awakening is happening.
breathing in, I open to what I truly, deeply believe for my own life and in the world.
breathing out, I commit to making concrete steps in my daily life to manifest this reality.
In,
Touching deep aspiration.
Out,
Concrete daily steps to realize it.
yes, daily and individual and collective steps to realize it.
yes, daily, individual, and collective steps to realize it.
Yes, daily, individual, and collective steps to realize it.
Will you please join us?